We'll call to order the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Douglas County, Nebraska for Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. Please note that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the north wall of the Legislative Chamber alongside an automatic external defibrillator. Please stand for the pledge. First order of business is the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson, Commissioner Kavanaugh, Commissioner Fahey, Commissioner Friend, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Rogers, Mr. Chair.
Here. First, we have items A and B. A being the approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, and B being a call for a meeting and set Tuesday, December 16th, 2025 as date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Do I have a motion and a second for both? So moved. Motion by Morgan, second by Rogers. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we have our resolutions, items C through E, which we can take in block plus adjournment if desired.
Commissioners?
Oh, yes.
Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor, Register of Deeds Office.
Hold on, Mr. Goodwillie. Let me get a motion a second before we do a discussion real quick. Okay. Was that a motion, Rogers? Okay. Second by Fahey. And go ahead.
Well, I wanted to talk about resolutions C and D because they're related, and what you do with resolution D will affect what you do with resolution C.
Okay.
To refresh everyone's recollection, resolution C was part of a larger series of corrections to add value to properties that had failed to file property tax exemption applications within the statutorily mandated time frame in 2025. There were a number of items that Commissioner Rogers asked to be laid over. I think he wanted to reach out to some of those organizations. We proposed putting a value, this is a parking lot for a fraternal organization. I think the value we were proposing is $6,500, which would work out to gross tax rate, value times rate of $133 when you subtract the state tax credits out, both regular and school district. The tax liability would be about $108, $110 thereabouts. After Commissioner Rogers reached out to some of these organizations, only one of them filed an application, and that was this Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge. And they filed a 25 application that came to us basically 6 months after the statutory filing deadline. So Resolution D is us recommending the denial of that application. If you adopt the if you uphold the denial recommendation, then the value would be added through Resolution C. Okay. So they're a little bit interrelated, and I thought it might be useful to explain them both.
Got it. Appreciate that. Thank you. We'll go to Commissioner Borgeson.
Thank you. If it wasn't denied because it was late, Would it have been approved?
Oh, probably.
Okay.
In these scenarios, we send out about 4 different reminders, to which, none of which we got a response to. So
And when they sent it in, was there any explanation as to the why?
not really. There isn't any place on the application to explain it. I had a conversation with a gentleman from the organization in connection with this, and it was the usual, administratively, we screwed up and nobody looked at the mail.
Yeah. Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other comments or questions?
Can I make a motion to,
Granted.
yes, is that what the motion I need to make to grant?
Maybe amend the main motion to change what we would do
Amend
with
the main
COD.
motion to approve item D.
Okay. And just a quick point of clarification, Mr. Assessor, if we, instead of denying within D, we approve it, is there anything we need to do in C?
Amend the motion to approve.
I think basically C would go away.
C would go away, okay. So we could amend the motion to approve D instead and strike C, perhaps?
Yeah, then my motion is to amend item D to approve that item.
Okay.
I guess if that gets us there.
Okay. So motion to amend by Rogers, second by Borgeson. We would approve D instead of deny it. Other comments or questions on the amendment? All right, we can vote on the amendment first and then the main motion.
Yeah, one moment, please, Commissioners. So approve item D, which essentially means you're not approving item C. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it, Commissioners. Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Well, we amended the main motion.
Yeah.
And the main motion had adjournment, so let's go back to the main motion that now includes that amendment plus adjournment, so we'll vote on that.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That concludes Board of Equalization. We'll jump into Board of Commissioners. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Borgeson. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Fahey. Commissioner Friend. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Rogers. Mr. Chair.
Here. First item of business are items A, B, and C under Section 1. A being the approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025. B being the approval of claims submitted for payment process through Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. And C, the approval of resolution authorizing the clerk comptroller to make certain payments if a county board meeting is canceled during calendar year 2026. Do you have a motion and a second? Motion by Morgan, second by Rogers for A, B, and C. We'll vote on those.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to our consent agenda, items A through F. Do I have a motion and a second for discussion? Motion by Rogers, second by Morgan. We'll go into consent. Any questions or comments on consent agenda?
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
just
yes.
on item B2, just wanted to point out the commissioners have the agreement in their packet, but on the website, it's just the agenda request form, resolution, and letter explaining the agreement, but the actual agreement itself didn't make it to the website, but it'll get posted today.
Okay. Thank you. Other comments or questions on consent agenda? If not, we'll vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We'll jump to section 7, public hearings, of which we have 2. First is item A, a rezone of parcel 011-067-0011, section 30 of township 15, range 10, from rural residential to agricultural. We have Laura Dietrich to comment, but first let me open up the public hearing and go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Laura Dietrich, Planning and Zoning Coordinator. In 2006, when the county updated its zoning map, this parcel was zoned rural residential based on incorrect drawings. In 2008, the county did a rectification project, and at that time, the parcel was drawn correctly and matches what you're seeing today. Based on the acreage amount and the correct drawings, this should be zoned agriculture. Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at their November 19th meeting and recommended approval. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Comments or questions during this hearing? If not, I will close the public hearing. What is the will of the board? Move to approve by Borgeson, second by Morgan. We'll go ahead and vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Laura. We'll jump to item B, which is to open the public hearing on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, for the vacation of the portion of Rainwood Road west of 156th Street right-of-way. Action to be taken on Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, which is next week. So I will open the public hearing for item B.
That one.
Do you want me to pull it up when you're ready to talk about it, or do you want to do it now? Right now? Okay. All right, you can arrow over.
Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Fitzer with Douglas County Engineers Office, 15505 West Maple. I have Dan Kudelek with me today. As you know, Dan's the county historian, so if you ask me any really detailed questions about stuff, I'll bring up backup. But I wanted to get before you today and explain why this is in front of you today and what we did. So, picture's worth 1,000 words. If you look at this, the red is what we're vacating. Why are we vacating that? Why did we buy land that we're now basically going to vacate? You can see the width is common across east and west of 156th Street there for Rainwood Road. You'll see in the next slide or two, there's some extreme grades out here. And so the county analyzed this years ago, and the determination was made that this is just a quick visual for you to see where it's at. But the determination was made, and you can see in this picture, that if you try to build the road on the alignment that would just provide a direct east-west alignment, you end up building millions of dollars in retaining walls, or you end up buying property, houses, and impacting the community and extreme right-of-way cost. So the county purchased this land, built the road through here. As you see, you can see the triangular shaped areas. That's the grades coming down to tie the road into determined a good engineering grade through there. Now the developer sees an advantage to purchasing this land to provide his drainage through there, which will allow to the north more developable lots. So we are selling the land back to the developer essentially for the exact cost that the taxpayers paid for it before we did this project. So there's no net loss to the taxpayer. The developer gets to put his drainage through and get more lots, and we save money on these retaining walls. So that's kind of the complicated path of how we got here and why we did this and why this is before you. We do have an agreement with the developer to the north, agreeing on the evaluated price, which was obtained through the appraised value, which was based on exactly what we paid for the property. So there's no loss to the taxpayers on the cost of the property.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Commissioner Morgan?
I was just going to ask you, the person you're selling it to, which seems fair, was he the one that sold it to us or that we acquired it from?
No, we purchased it from the original landowner that's owned it, I don't know how many years, but.
And that person didn't have an interest in getting it back?
No.
To your knowledge?
No, because I believe they've sold the rest of their property to the developer.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that they were aware so that if they had the chance, you know.
Yes.
But
No,
I
that makes
appreciate
perfect
what you're
sense.
doing.
Yeah,
Thank
great
you.
question. You're welcome.
Other comments or questions? If not, I will close the public hearing on this item, and it's set to be voted on next week on December 16th.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. That concludes public hearings. We're going to jump to committees. Under finance, we have our budget report as presented. We also have our monthly fee report also as presented. Under child and youth services, we do have a monthly presentation for our Douglas County Youth Detention Report through November 2025. So we'll transition to that here in a second. And Rondi, I'm going to welcome you up for the report.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I'm Superintendent Mr. Woodard. I'm here to give the data presentation for the November data for the DCYC population. This first graph displays monthly admission trends for DCYC since January 2023. In November, there were 54 admissions. Of these, only 2 youth were charged as adults, continuing the downward trend in adult admissions observed since the summer. 47 admissions involved youth charged in juvenile court, and 5 youth were admitted from other jurisdictions. This next slide, when we are examining admissions, it is equally important to consider the average time to release. This graph displays the average number of days youth spent in detention before release each month. In November 2025, the average time to release across all youth was 69 days, approximately 5 days shorter than the average for youth released in January 2023. The average time to release for the youth charged as an adult varies significantly due to the relatively small number of released each month. In November, 3 youth charged as adults were released with an average time to release of 407 days. For juvenile court youth, the average length of stay in November was 47 days. The combination of admissions and length of stay drives DCYC's average daily population. In November 2025, the ADP was 80, which is notably lower than levels observed during the first half of the year. This decline is largely affected by the reduction of youth charged as adults. During the first half of the year, the ADP for adult charged youth averaged 44 days, but by November had decreased to 29. The juvenile court population has experienced slight fluctuations throughout the year. In November, their ADP was 51. This graph illustrates weekly average daily population levels at DCYC since January 2023. In the first half of the year, the overlap between the gray and the dark blue line reflects periods when youth charged as adults outnumbered those charged in juvenile court. Since the end of June, however, the population of adult court youth in detention has shown a steady weekly decline. As shown on the left-hand side of this slide, the Douglas County population by race provides important context for admissions data. Youth of color continue to be disproportionately represented in DCYC annual admissions relative to their proportion in the county population. In November, Black youth accounted for 59% of admissions. Hispanic youth compared 14%, and Asian youth represented 10%. White youth accounted for 14% of admissions, while Native Americans comprised the remaining 2%. This graphic illustrates the geographic distribution of DCYC's admissions across Douglas County. Darker blue areas represent higher concentrations of admissions. Consistent with trends observed in calendar year 2024, admissions in November of 2025 were disproportionately concentrated in the eastern Douglas County, particularly within zip codes 68111, 68104, and 68112. During November, DCYC's population ranged from a low of 72 to a high of 88, with an average daily population of 80. The snapshot count was 85 on the first day of the month and 77 on the last day. Over the course of the month, the home program screened 10 youth, 1 were referred by probation, and 9 were referred by the courts. Of those screened, 5 youth were accepted. In November, 63 youth were released from DCYC with an average time to release of 54 days. 3 youth with charges in adult court were released after an average of 408 days. Among predisposition youth, 18 were released after approximately 29 days in detention. 10 youth on juvenile probation who entered detention with new charges were released after an average of 86 days. While 18 probation youth admitted without new charges spent about 44 days in DCYC before their release. Additionally, 4 youth held for other jurisdictions in November were released after an average of 2 days. In November, 54 youth were admitted to DCYC. Of these, 2 were charged in adult court, 5 were from other jurisdictions, and the remaining 47 had charges in juvenile court. Among the juvenile court admissions, 22 were on a predisposition status, 13 received new charges while on probation, and 12 were admitted while on probation for reasons other than a new law violation. These 12 youth accounted for 22% of all DCYC's admissions during that month. For the 49 Douglas County youth admitted to DCYC in November, 10 youth were admitted on weapon-related offenses. 8 of these were felonies and 2 were misdemeanors. 15 other youth were admitted on 10 non-weapon felonies and 3 were admitted on non-weapon misdemeanors. The last 21 entered detention for reasons other than the commission of a new offense. Of the 10 youth admitted on weapons-related charges, 5 entered on a predisposition status, and 5 were admitted with new charges while on juvenile probation. Within this group, two offenses involved the use of a weapon, while the remaining 8 were related to firearm possession. Of the weapon-related charges, 8 were classified as felony-level offenses. 7 of these involved firearm possession, with many of the youth connected to the same incident. Additionally, charges among this group included theft, unlawful absence, and weapon possession. 1 youth was charged with a felony-level weapon use offense and had underlying charges of assault and disorderly conduct. Of the 2 misdemeanor weapon offenses, 1 was possession of a firearm and 1 was possession of a weapon other than a firearm. All right, turning to the 15 youth admitted on non-weapon felony charges, only 1 was charged as an adult, 8 were on predisposition status in juvenile court, and the other 6 received new charges while on probation. The offense committed by these youth included drug possession, theft, assault, terroristic threats, accessory to a felony, burglary, and resisting arrest. Next. 3 youth were admitted for non-weapon related misdemeanors. All of these youth were in juvenile court. 2 were charged with assault, and 1 was charged with unlawful occupancy. In November, 22% of admissions, which is 21 youth, entered DCYC for reasons other than a new offense. Of these, 1 was charged in adult court, 7 were predisposition, and 13 were on probation. The admission reasons included 7 for probation violations, 7 failure to appear in court, 5 unlawful absences, and 2 court-ordered detentions. Among this group, 5 youth had underlying felony offenses: burglary, firearm possession, robbery, theft, and weapon use, while the remaining 16 had underlying misdemeanors, including assault, disorderly conduct, drug possession, exhibition driving, theft, and trespassing. Okay, this next slide is a snapshot of the DCYC's population on December 3rd, 2025. As of Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, DCYC housed 77 youth. Of these, 1 was from another county, 24 were charged as adults, and 52 were charged in juvenile court. Among the juvenile court youth, 35 were on probation at the time of admissions, and 23 were admitted for reasons other than new charges. With respect to demographics, 91% of the DCYC population were youth of color, 87% were male, 11 youth, representing 14% of the total population, were duly involved in the child welfare system as state wards. This next slide is a snapshot of, a snapshot of the DCYC population. We're focusing on length of stay. This slide shows how long Douglas County youth have been in detention. Also, as of Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, on that date, 76 Douglas County youth were in detention with an average length of stay of 142 days. Of these, 20 youth had been detained for 6 months or longer. As of Tuesday, December 2nd, a total of 12 youth were pending release. None were identified as state wards. At the time of the review, youth pending release experienced an average wait of 14 days, with a duration ranging from 6 to 42 days. Notably, 50% of these youth were awaiting placement to group homes. These youth also had a mixture of felonies, misdemeanors, offenses. Felonies included burglary, criminal mischief, firearm possession, and sexual assault, while misdemeanors included assault, disturbing the peace, firearm possession, theft, and weapon possession. I'm here to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Superintendent. Super quick point of clarification. When you do the averages towards the beginning and the end of the presentation, that always includes the adult charged youth and their averages and the overall average, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure. Thank you so much. We'll jump into discussion. We'll starting with Commissioner Kavanaugh.
Thanks for this. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Just a point of clarification. When we say adult charges, we're talking about both felonies, serious offenses, and misdemeanors, less serious offenses, right? That's all in the adult charges category.
Yeah, all youth that are charged in
And it's
adult-
broken out there at the end, but all along, you could be in for a shoplifting charged as an adult, or you could be in for a murder charge charged as an adult. You'd still come under that adult category.
Yes.
Okay. And those kids are all housed together. Is that right?
Yes.
And they're housed together with the kids charged with juvenile offenses. Is that correct?
It's based on their classification. So we might have youth that are in adult court that are housed with youth that are in juvenile court, but they might be, based on their classification, they might have a more serious history, and they might end up on the same unit based on their classification.
Okay. So
And
the
it-
average daily population today is what? The population at the youth center today?
How many kids we have today?
Today, yeah.
80.
80, okay. I think it's fair to say that we've spent tens of millions in the last 7 years on juvenile justice issues, and the numbers really haven't changed. I mean, that average daily population of 80 is approximately the same as it was in 2018. Despite this massive expenditure and the construction of a facility, the kids' jail across the street, which remains empty, it's also true that the average minority composition of that 80 kids locked up remains the same, which is overwhelmingly minority. Is that pretty much true?
Yes, it is,
Yeah.
91%.
So we end up with tens of millions of dollars spent, an empty building, and very little has been spent on those children at the 42nd Street Youth Center in terms of upgrading that building. Certainly not as much as it was spent on the empty kids' jail across the street. And I've been there, you've taken me through, there's massive need for upgrading that building, but virtually compared to these expenditures, nothing has been expended to do a redo, despite, repeated, very specific, I think, requests for, I guess you would call it deferred maintenance of that facility, prepared by you and your staff. And that's something that we should be ashamed of, and I think should be corrected immediately. Unfortunately, so much money has been expended on these programs that haven't moved the dial an inch that there's a problem getting the money that we need to do what we need to do for these kids. It's pretty clear, though, that after this 8-year experiment, we haven't had a success here. We've had a failure. This is a situation where same amount of kids are getting locked up from the same community. The zip code information on page 7 shows if you want to stay out of the youth center, you could pretty much pick an area in Douglas County where there are 0 children in your zip code in the youth center. On the other hand, there's, as you pointed out, 2 or 3 zip codes, one of which I grew up in, which have the overwhelming majority of kids in the youth center. Out of all the zip codes in Douglas County, looks like a majority of them have 0 or very close to 0 kids in the youth center. I'll come back. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else comments or questions on detention report? I'll ask a few quick questions here. Obviously, Rhonda, you don't run the group homes in the community, but you might have some knowledge there. I'm curious as to the youth with release orders slide, and you cited yourself that 50% of them were waiting for a group home. Can you give some examples and remind us of what are some typical group homes that these youth would be waiting for, and any capacity issues that maybe you see on your end as superintendent?
The most used ones that I am familiar with are, they go to Radius a lot. They go to Canyon State, and there's some other group homes in Arizona. They go to some that are in Colorado. I do know that they are having capacity issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I know during the beginning of the year, the ones that house the sexual perpetrators, they told us that it would be after the first of the year before they were accepting other youth, and that was back at the beginning of October.
Okay. Are there any programs that specialize in that kind of issue or behavior here in Nebraska? I'm just curious. The one that you just mentioned.
I'm thinking that they do in Lincoln, but I'm not sure of any other ones that do.
Okay. Thank you.
And Omni might also, actually.
Yeah. And not really a question for you, but I am going to follow up with maybe Abby and maybe some of our probation partners. I am curious as to, out of the 35 that were in detention for probation, 12 for new charges, which we understand that's a new charge, 23 for no new charges, which we understand there's technical violations, there's no-shows and stuff like that. I'd be curious to kind of look through those 23 to see more specifically what are those technical or status offenses that are not new charges, just to understand that subpopulation a little better. So just kind of talking out loud here, that's something of interest to me. But I appreciate your report, Superintendent. I'm going to go to some of my colleagues here. Let me go to Commissioner Morgan.
I was going to ask you, appreciate the good job you and your team are always doing, it seems to me. The facility at 52nd and Ames, just to the north there, I was there when they opened the doors of it, and I know it's not a secure facility. Do we have our view going to that facility?
Radius, yes, we do have youth that go there.
It does work out. I know that's one that's not secured, where they can walk away pretty much, but you are using that as an alternative, possibly.
Yeah, we do see releases going to that facility frequently.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Commissioner Cavanaugh.
Thank you. I want to make clear that the job that you and your staff do on 42nd Street is first class, and I have no criticism to what you do, including, I'll give one example, I think it was New Year's of 2024, 2025, when it was freezing cold outside and the power went out. The heating power went out at the youth center. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I came over and looked around, and you were there during the holidays. Kids are in blankets. There's no heat. Went on for some time. At the same time, we were spending tens of millions of dollars on a climate-controlled facility that exists across the street that doesn't have any kids in it. You and your staff went over and above over the holidays during that crisis to make sure that every kid in your care was taken care of. And I think they all pretty much were. I saw them, I spoke with them, and although they had to wear blankets on the holidays to keep the cold off, they were fed, they were kept reasonably warm, and the thing was repaired. But no additional investment by Douglas County went to replace the heating and air conditioning in the youth center, although we have kept a climate-controlled empty building across the street from that day to this, with no kids in it. The point is, I think that we should take a serious look at reinvesting in your facility, which is full of kids and doesn't seem to be going down at all, and take a hard look of how we're going to take care of the kids that we have with the resources that we have, and somehow, some way, unburden ourselves of this white elephant across the street, which has sucked up tens of millions of dollars and has not benefited a single child in Douglas County, despite the representation of some of my colleagues here on the board who advocated for this and spent all that money for this, and left these kids on 42nd Street without heat during the winter, with shabby conditions that you're slowly trying to repair, but you don't have the tens of millions of dollars that were wasted on this thing. I want to say you and your staff deserve a big salute and credit from all of us for the job that you do with these troubled youth and starved of resources, while the county has squandered tens of millions of dollars on fruitless real estate and construction projects that haven't helped a single child. I know this is frustrating for you. It's frustrating for your staff. It's not good for the kids, and it's bad for the taxpayers. But we need to take a hard look at turning this around. And thank you for this information, because you're kind of like the canary in the coal mine of telling us just factually what's the status. Status is not much change after all this money spent and all these resources squandered. The kids are still there. They're still coming from the same neighborhoods. They're still being locked up for the same period of time, and we need to do better by them. So thank you, and I wish you and your staff and all the kids at the Youth Center a better holiday than they had that time, and I hope this heat stays on. But if it doesn't, please get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on detention report? Commissioner Rogers.
Mr. Chair, Ronnie, appreciate the report. Let me take you to page if I can find it. Page toward the end, 14. Because it states the snapshot of time. So just to say, you got, there was a statement made that some of the kids could be on, you could have adult charges and have a felony. You could be on adult charges, have a misdemeanor. I guess some of that depends on money amounts, and some of it depends on offense and intensity of the act. That's fair.
Yes.
But it's safe to say all the kids pretty much that's there on the juvenile side should be waiting to go to programming or something to that degree. They probably may not have programming, but if you're an adjudicated, you're on that side, you're in juvenile court, you're waiting for a rehabilitative sense.
Yes.
Okay. So based on that fact and the stats and argument that was made, let's just say you got 24 kids that are in there on adult right now. All those kids may not be of the same intensity, but you got 52 kids on juvenile. So based on that, and let me say from the report, the claims that are said that nothing's improved, looks like I have to give probation credit. They've done some things to get some people moving, and I just know recently from a committee meeting on with them that they're trying to do some other things, so credit to them. But there's still a gap that looks like within there that there's some kids waiting that they need some service upgrade on. So right now you got 23 kids on there without new charges that those 23 should be on some programming at some point. You mentioned the length of stays and things in there. So the point I'm trying to make on that is that by just the fact of how classifications go, your own probation, you should be able to service 52 of these, at least 23, the 23 maybe the 12 that are there. So that puts it at 23, 33, 35 should really be on programming if the adequate programming is there, which takes them out. So my point is, I think the point that you got a white elephant sitting there, the point is, I think the board has the power to move in there at any time. That's the thing we control. So I'd say that the point made of you starving of resources is an exaggeration. I mean, the place is monitored by a state agency, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the place was so gravely starved, a state agency would step in to some degree and have something to say about that.
We passed our jail standards.
My point, exactly. So I would just say by some extent that I wholeheartedly believe that the programming is doing good. There's some things that need to be improved, but I would just say on record, other than the maintenance that we need to do to make sure everything's fitting, we meet standards, I would continue to advocate that we have the power to make that move there. And by making a move, you open up that building to get rehabbed and redone for a group of service that it states here on page 14 that we obviously need and there's a gap for. And so I may come back at the other time, but let me say to you, we talked on some point. I think the point that you've made of letting people into the facility and letting some of them get there and transition out has done a great deal to some of that return, and I appreciate your work on that.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on detention report? If not, we'll go ahead and conclude. Thank you, Superintendent. Appreciate your time today. We're going to move forward on our agenda here to the Human Resources Committee, under which we have item 1, weekly personnel report from civil service as presented. We also have a resolution setting the salaries for various Douglas County elected officials. Item 2. Patrick's not in the room, but, oh, there he is. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, Patrick, but maybe about the time frame and just the cycle of this kind of resolution.
Patrick Bloomingdale, County Administrator. So this is the 8 elected, the 6 of the 8 elected officials, including the County Clerk, Comptroller, and the Public Defender, because they will not be up for election next year. So this salary sets the salary for 4 years, 27 through 30. These requested pay increases were, with the exception of one, they were requested by the elected officials, so I just simply inserted what they requested. There was one sheriff that requested an additional amount, but it was rolled back. Proposals to roll that back. Still a higher increase, but not as much as what was requested. And that's it. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Patrick. Comments or questions on this resolution? Well, first, let me see if there's a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Rogers. I'll go ahead and second that. We'll go to Commissioner Borgeson.
Is there someone here who can provide the justification for the 10.42% increase in that salary?
That was something that I guess you could call it a compromise, but it's something that Marcos was asked to look at comparable jurisdictions similar to what we do for like Lancaster County. I guess Marcos can answer the specific questions. So it was significantly less than what was requested by the sheriff, but it was based on comparable jurisdictions that we might use for unions. Is that correct, Marcos? Yes. Can you read what counties were used?
Commissioners, Marco San Martin, Douglas County Administration. Give me 1 minute to bring this up on my computer. I don't have it.
While
right in front of
Marcos
me.
looks that up, I know we did look at Jackson County, which is Kansas City, Missouri. I know we looked at Polk County, which is Des Moines, Iowa. We looked at Sedgwick County in Wichita, Kansas. So all of which are more or less between 400,000 and 750,000 people. So we try to look at regional comparables, and we took the average of all those regional comparables. We had at least 5, but Marcos, go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioners, yes, I did bring it up. So Commissioners, we did look very quickly at Jackson County. That's Kansas City, Missouri. Lancaster, which is Nebraska. Sarpy County. Polk County, which is Des Moines, Iowa. Sedgwick County, that's Wichita, Kansas. Johnson County, Kansas, that is Olathe and Overland Park, Leawood. And then just some other, those were the comparables we looked at. Yep.
And the calculation was just the average of all of those and what the sheriff is making in all those comparable counties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Morgan?
The other thing I think is NACO had recommended a salary. I know the state of Nebraska that the sheriff should have a greater increase also. So it is a compromise for sure. And then when you compare it to some smaller counties, I think he's under even some of those. So, I think it's a difficult one for us.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Borson?
Well, I think as far as the NACO report goes, if this board needs to decide if we're going to utilize that or not utilize it, because we've never utilized it in the past. And it was because we were such an outlier. So I don't think it's fair to the other electeds if we're not comparing apples to apples with the study being used. So just it doesn't help this year, but as we move forward, if we're going to use or state that study, then we should use it for all salaries that we're setting, not just picking out one.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to clarify, while the NACO recommendation was brought up, it was not utilized in this calculation. Right. It was simply the average of the comparable counties, right, which is how we got to the figure and the recommendation here. And also the second kind of layer of just trying to view this objectively is that without kind of this first year slight extra bump, the sheriff would be below the chief deputies. And so definitely compression going on there for sure. Plus the comparables and the average of those comparables led to the recommendation. Other comments or questions? If not, we do have a motion and a second on the table. There's a vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Before I get to the fact that we don't have a need for executive session, let me first give Commissioner Rogers a quick point of privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Marcos is working on a resolution for me, but I just want to publicly recognize the loss this weekend of an individual in North Omaha. Her name was Ruth Patrick Thomas. She was his historic figure in North Omaha. She lived to the age of 105. She was one of the first black school board members to be on the Omaha Public Schools board. She was director at Charles Drew. She married into a family that ran Thomas Funeral Home that continues to operate today. And I can't state enough her stature in that community and what she meant and the loss that it means. And so if anybody's listening, I just wanted, she did get the privilege of being recognized by the Exarban Board of Governors and the Exarban Foundation for her work in business and industry and the foundation about a couple of years ago. And so I just want to thank the chair for the privilege and wanted to make sure that the condolences for the family was shared in a timely manner. and just recognize the giant that she was, not only in the North Omaha community, but also in the county. And our prayers are with her family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Rogers, for that. So we'll go ahead and conclude our agenda here. Patrick, Teresa, and team, still no need for exec, is that correct? Okay, very good. In that case, I'll take a motion for adjournment. Motion by Morgan, second by Rogers. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. We're adjourned at 9:55 a.m.
Thank you.